Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Shri Radha Madhava ki, Shri Radha Giridhari ki jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, the appearance day of Srivasa Thakur ki jai, Sri Maha Mahotsava ki jai. I imagine in honor of Srivasa Thakur there'll be a very special breakfast, right? And a very special lunch, correct?
Not getting yes.
Well, of course. Right. So I'm going to read first, if that's okay, about Srivasa Thakur. He's one of the principal members of the Hare Krishna movement, Panchatattva. And then we have some time, we'll jump into the Srimad Bhagavatam verse. Is that okay?
That's good.
Okay. And this is a selection of different references to Srivasa Thakur from different scriptures compiled by Satyaraj Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Do you remember when that Lord Chaitanya and 5 Features came out, the little book.
Yeah.
Remember that? In Sankirtan, you get this book to distribute to people. It's pretty esoteric. Let alone when Anjalila came out in the parking lot trying to hand someone an Anjalila and explain, take that home. Boom. That's an explosion in their house. But distribute these books. It's pretty ecstatic. Okay. Let's see what we got in here. Vamagyantimarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurin Minitam Nena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapatantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Open that door just a little bit, please. Jaya Jaya Srivasa Pandita Bhaktagan Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Yanya Pranadan. All glories to the world's many devotees headed by Srivasa Thakur. Sri Chaitanya is their life and soul. So, first, again, there's different pastimes of Srivasa Thakur and description of his divine personality. There's an interesting story in Kavi Kanapur's Chaitanya Chandradoya Natakam, it's a play, wherein the Lord asked Srivasa Thakur if he remembers how he was saved from death and how he was at that time infused with Narada Shakti. Srivasa answers that he does not remember and proceeds to tell the following story. Before the Lord came into my life, Srivasa said, from childhood to 16 years of age, I was wild, merciless, offensive to Guru and Brahmanas, and just had a generally restless heart, hard as wood. Sound like anyone you know? I was proud, conceited, and even in my dreams, I never heard or chanted the Lord's glories. Then, perhaps because of some unknown previous pious act, a kind-hearted person came to me in a dream and said, O Brahmana in name only, O restless-hearted one, who can give you advice? You will not listen to anyone. Still, I tell you directly, you have only 1 year of life ahead of you. Then you will die untimely. Do not throw your short remaining period of life away on useless things. Imagine if you had a dream like that. The next day, awakening at dawn, Srivasa remembered the good advice he received in his dream, and he was unhappy that his life would be short. I decided then and there, he said, that I would give up all my misdeeds. I made a vow to try to understand the ultimate goal of human life, and soon thereafter in Narada Purana I found this verse. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam kalo nasteva 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 gatiranyata. In this age of choral hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way. I considered this a direct message from Lord Krishna. Srivasa continued, and I immediately gave up all materialism, and forgetting everything else, I took shelter of Lord Hari's name alone. This gave me great peace while I waited for that moment of death, which was supposed to come less than 1 year later. It was during this period that I went to the home of Devananda Pandit, a renowned teacher of Srimad Bhagavatam, hoping to hear his lucid commentary on various texts. While listening to the story of Prahlad Maharaj, Srivasa told the Lord, the predicted time of death had arrived. I lost consciousness, and under the spell of that final moment, I fell from Devananda's balcony to the courtyard below. Then, within one precious moment, someone rescued me from the jaws of death. Understanding that I was still alive, I was overcome with gratefulness. Again, I stood, trying to keep my balance. My dear friends brought me to my home. I realized that at that time, O Lord, you brought me back to my senses. You saved me and infused me at that moment with Narada Shakti. The Lord confirmed that this was true, and Advaitacharya concurred according to that. Srivasa is glorious, adding that, Srivasa is glorious. He is the home, Vasa, of glory, Shri. And therefore he is called Srivasa Thakur. It should be understood that the above story was told by Kavi Kanapur is simply a leela by which one can understand that Srivasa is Narada. Although it appears that Srivasa was infused with Narada Shakti at a particular moment in time, such a view is merely an expression of how an eternal truth manifests in the world of three dimensions. As the years passed, Srivasa and his three brothers, Sri Ram, Sripati, Srinidhi, and according to Prema Vilas, there was a fourth, Nalina, helped Mahaprabhu enact his pastimes of Sankirtan by offering their house as his humble abode. The four brothers worshipped Sri Krishna by chanting his names profusely, for they were influenced by Srivasa's change of heart, and they were known to bathe in the Ganges 3 times a day. Srivasa and his brothers were raised by their father, Jaladhara Pandit, in the district of Srihata. Later, they relocated to the west of the Ganges and became famous throughout the Navadvip area as great devotees of the Lord. While in West Bengal, they regularly attended devotional gatherings at Advaitacharya's house, where the Srimad Bhagavatam was being recited and where they performed the congregational chanting of Krishna's holy names. The brothers gradually became close friends with Jagannath Mishra, with whom they would chant and listen to Bhagavatam, but they did not know that Mahaprabhu would soon be born to the wife of this pious Brahmana. Only Srivasa, who was the natural leader of the three brothers, understood what was to come, for by the strength of his devotion he could understand that Sri Krishna was going to appear soon in the house of Jagannath Mishra. Transcendental qualification. Srivasa Pandit's wife was known as Malini Devi. She was a very close friend of Sachi Devi, Mahaprabhu's mother, and was always helpful to her, especially when she gave birth to the Lord. Srivasa and Malini gave Sachi Devi and Jagannath advice on how to raise their newly born son. In fact, they were just like a second mother and father to Lord Chaitanya. So very, very close. As Nimai Mahaprabhu grew into boyhood, he sometimes asked the aging Srivasa Pandit difficult and convoluted questions just to antagonize him. But Srivasa, not wanting to waste words, would just leave the spot without bothering to argue with him. I guess that's a good thing you can do, right? Just don't say anything. Just leave the spot. Okay? Right? Because that happens on Sankirtan, right? People just want to argue with you just for the sake of arguing. So what do you fall into that trap? No. You look like maybe once you did and that was enough. Okay. Not anymore. So there it is. That's a Sankirtan, what do you want to call it? Tactic. Brought Srivasa Thakur. It's authorized by Srivasa Thakur. He used it also when he went on. Anyways, this is pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Such pastimes of scholarship started to agitate the devotees of Navadvip, who felt it unfortunate that a bright boy like little Nimai would spend his time in useless argument instead of a life of devotion. Understanding the minds of the Vaishnavas, the Lord offered respects to Srivasa whenever he saw him. This gesture of humility served to pacify the devotees. One day, Nimai was walking along with 5 or 6 of his students. He was dressed in fine silken clothes of yellow color, which made him appear like Krishna's twin. His lips were red from chewing betel nut. By seeing his lotus face more beautiful than 10 million moons, the people of Navadvip would remark, "This person is undoubtedly more attractive than Cupid." Srivasa Pandit happened to be coming the other way. When he saw Nimai, he laughed to himself, impressed that anyone could be so disarmingly beautiful. As usual, Nimai offered his respects to Srivasa, who said to the Lord, "May you live long and prosper." But this was not all that he said. Still smiling, Srivas looked the Lord straight in his eyes and asked him, "Tell me, where are you going, O crest jewel of the vain and arrogant?" Without worshiping Krishna, just what do you expect to accomplish passing this time as you do? How is it that day and night you are simply absorbed in academic and mundane pursuits? Think about it. Why do people study? Why do people study? Ultimately, the goal of knowledge is happiness, and happiness can only be acquired through service to Krishna. If by scholarship one doesn't gain devotion to the Lord, then what will that learning help him? Uselessly waste your time in these vain pursuits. You have studied so much, now use your knowledge to worship God. These ideas pleased Nimai to the core of his being. Hearing Srivas's words, the Lord smiled and replied to him, "Hear me, Srivas. By your mercy, I will one day come to worship Krishna. If the devotees are kind to me, then I will definitely attain devotion to Sri Krishna's lotus feet." Saying this, he proceeded toward the bank of the Ganges in a light-hearted mood, accompanied by his students. So, is this the reason, Lord Chaitanya? Nimai had a turnabout? Soon after this incident, Nimai went to Gaya and received initiation into Vaishnava Dharma. One day after his return, Srivas came to Sachi's house, and Mahaprabhu offered his most respectful greetings. By seeing a devotee of Srivas's caliber, Mahaprabhu's devotional sentiments increased. His bodily hair stood on end, tears flowed from his eyes, and his body trembled. Such symptoms of ecstasy were now appearing in him regularly. Together with Srivas and his brothers, the Lord decided to transform Srivas's house into a second Vrindavan, where the love of Radha and Krishna would resound in uproarious and uncontrollable kirtan. Every time the Lord visited Srivas's house for chanting and dancing, his love of God increased 1,000 times. For a full year, he held kirtan sessions there every day. The compound of Srivasa Pandita, also called Kol Bhangadanga, okay, is situated about 600 feet north of Mahaprabhu's birthplace. Here in Srivasanga courtyard, as the area came to be called, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with his confidential Navadvip associates, first inaugurated his Sankirtan movement. Srivas and his brothers used to perform kirtan all night long with madanga and kartals in indescribable ecstasy, and after Mahaprabhu's initiation, he and the others joined them. Srivasanga is the arena of rasa. Here Mahaprabhu and Nityananda dance with maddening abandon and exchange intense moods of love with their devotees. It is said that the force of Nityananda's rhythmic steps as he danced was so powerful that it sounded just like an earthquake. Mahaprabhu would dance both on the ground and in the air. He would at times touch his head with his feet, and at other times float freely, not subject to the material law of gravitation. Both Nimai and Nitai would become totally absorbed in each other and totally oblivious to the outside world. When either of them would crash to the ground as a result of their jumping and dancing, it would sound as if the earth had collided with another planet. They would laugh and cry and dance and shout. It was impossible to calculate the bliss of the devotees who were fortunate enough to associate with the Lord in Srivasanga. That's a kirtan. Hare Krishna. That's something to aspire for. I just think when I was reading this, you told me that you had met someone in Sankirtan, a Christian, who thought they had the upper hand on devotees. That in Christianity, it's the best religion because God died for us. That, as far as his opinion was, made it the best religion in the world because in our religion, God died for us. God's dead. I mean, I think we got something up on them. The kirtan of the holy name. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And trying to say, oh, God died for us. He's dead. These pastimes were being performed while the sweet sounds of raga kirtans were continually heard within the compound of Srivasa Pandita. Accompanying Nityananda Prabhu, Mahaprabhu, Srivasa Thakur and his brothers were Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Subdamodar, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, Haridas Thakur, Murari, Jagadananda, Nandanana, Buddhimanta Khan, Narayan, Govinda, Gopinath, Jagadish, Sridhar, Sadashiva, Shuklambhara, Brahmananda, Sri Garbha, and many others. None of them could live without the Sankirtan that occurred in Srivasa Thakur's courtyard. I think he starts telling a story about someone trying to sneak in eventually. Here in Srivasanga, Nityananda Prabhu performed Vyasa Puja, or worship of the original spiritual master, to Sri Chaitanya. Srivasa strictly followed all the scriptural injunctions, organizing everything according to the Lord's desire. He obtained an abundance of milk products, rice, fruits, grains, vegetables, ghee, incense, scented oils, camphor, sandalwood, fragrant flowers, tulsi leaves, and manjaris, and all the required paraphernalia for an elaborate performance of Vyasa Puja. In Srivasanga too, Lord Chaitanya revealed to Nityananda Prabhu his six-armed form, which held a bow and arrow, a flute, a staff of renunciation, and a water pot. Immediately upon seeing this transcendental form, Nityananda Ram went into ecstatic trance and started to dance like a madman. Finally, he came crashing to the ground, losing consciousness. When he came to, he and Mahaprabhu began to dance madly as if nothing had happened. Sometimes they cried piteously, and from their eyes flowed rivers of tears. They also roared as loudly as 1,000 lions. That's pretty loud. Then in a playful mood, they would each try to take the dust from each other's lotus feet. But because both Nityananda and Mahaprabhu were clever and quick, neither of them could succeed. It was like an unending competition that would never know fruition. And yet they remained happy, as if the goal of touching each other's feet was achieved merely by the endeavor. All of this was done in a fun-loving spirit. It was here at Srivasanga that Mahaprabhu showed his divinity to most of his confidential associates. He exhibited his Mahabhav Prakash, which means that for 21 hours he remained continuously absorbed in the mood of the Supreme Lord, as opposed to his usual mood of the identity of a devotee. During this pastime, the Lord exhibited his different incarnations. At that time, the devotees headed by Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, and Srivasa performed elaborate worship of Lord Chaitanya. The devotees brought Ganges water in big earthen pots, and after straining it, they added camphor, musk, rose oil, saffron, and tulsi leaves. Nityananda first bathed the Lord by pouring pure scented Ganges water on the Lord's head, while Advaita Acharya and Srivasa Thakur chanted the auspicious Purusha Sukta prayers from the Vedic literature. One time, Lord Chaitanya stopped dancing during kirtan in Srivasa's courtyard and announced that he was not feeling his usual sensation of supreme ecstasy. "Why I am not feeling happy?" the Lord asked the devotees. "Why is my heart not overflowing with bliss and joy?" The assembled devotees looked at each other, hoping that someone would step forward to resolve the Lord's dilemma. At that time, Srivasa Pandita started to inspect the entire compound, for he suspected that what this problem might be. Just then, hiding behind a bassinet, he found his wife's mother, the old mother-in-law thing, right? His wife's mother, who had secretly made her way into the compound to take part in the Lord's Leela. Not considering his mother-in-law qualified to be present, he removed her from the compound. Only the most intimate devotees were allowed into Srivasa's courtyard, for if one were not sufficiently advanced in spiritual life, one would not understand the activities that took place there and could, in fact, lose one's mind. On another similar occasion, a Brahmin who resided in Navadvip, widely known as the very emblem of renunciation because he subsisted only on milk without taking any other food, managed to make his way into Srivasa's confidential courtyard. Such occurrences were rare, for Mahaprabhu would begin kirtan only after the first bolting the door so that no non-devotees could enter. Nonetheless, the Brahmin who refrained from milk would daily ask Srivasa Thakur if he might enter the courtyard to see the ecstatic dancing of the Lord, because this was going on all night long, making all this noise. All the neighbors were thinking, those who couldn't appreciate it. So it was It's like, what's going on there all night long? Just like perverted reflection. It's like here in Pacific Beach on the weekend of the summer, all night long. These people are screaming and yelling and partying, right? So this is the Adi party. Okay. So, anyways, here we go. Nonetheless, the Brahmana daily would ask Srivasa Thakur if he might enter the courtyard to see the ecstatic dancing of the Lord. If you would be merciful to me only once and let me go inside, I could see the Lord's dancing. Let this be the success of my eyes and my life as well. That seems to be a reasonable request, right? In this way, he would regularly express his desire to see the Lord in the midst of the kirtan. One day, Srivasa told the ambitious Brahmana, I know that you have always led a pious life, that you properly practice celibacy and take only milk as your foodstuffs. I don't know of any sin that you have performed in your entire life. If it were up to me, I would let you into the kirtan. However, it is the order of the Lord that only the most dedicated devotees can join the courtyard, the kirtan in the courtyard. So if you want to go, you'll have to remain in hiding. This is the best advice I can give you. So he advised him to hide in there. The Brahmin agreed to go, even with the peculiar stipulation, and so Srivasa took him in the courtyard and concealed him behind a screen. That night, the Lord of the entire cosmos danced like a madman, his most fortunate associates surrounding him on all sides. Krishna, Ram, Mukunda, Murai, Vanamali, the devotees sang in great eagerness. Nityananda grabbed Gadadhar by the arms and danced in circles, while Advaita Prabhu ran in all directions, laughing in an unbridled ecstasy. The devotees were all absorbed in the joy of kirtan, shouting, Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Okay. There you go. You're practicing, right? Okay. At the very climax of the chanting, the Lord stopped, suddenly, somehow perceiving that an outsider was in hiding. He looked at everyone present and began to speak. Why is it that today ecstatic love has not come from us, has not come to give us its shelter? I suspect that some stranger has come within our midst. I cannot fully understand what is going on, so please let me know the truth as soon as possible. And the Lord fell silent. Srivasa became fearful. Why did he become fearful? He was the one who hit him. He said, oh, I'm in trouble. Busted. Srivasa became fearful when he saw the Lord's mood, and he began to utter the following words. Mahaprabhu, no atheists or unqualified people are here today. There is only one Brahmana who is in hiding, but he is the most qualified personality. He drinks only milk and does not take any other food. Really, he is a sinless person. He has great esteem for you and was very eager to see your dancing. He is remaining here concealed from sight. This, my Lord, is the truth of the matter. After listening to this reply, Mahaprabhu exploded in anger. Out, out, take him out right away. Why has he been given the ability to see my dancing? Is it that simply by drinking milk one can attain devotion to me? At this point, the Lord raised his arms and, pointing his finger at Srivasa, exclaimed, it takes more than drinking milk to attain my lotus feet. Okay? If the keeper of a crematorium takes shelter of me, then I am his, and he is mine. Know this for certain. However, even if a sannyasi does not recognize his dependence on me, then he is not mine. He is worthless. This is the simple truth. What austerities were performed by Gajendra, Hanuman, and the Gopas of Braja? Please tell me. To this there was no response. The devotees fell silent. How do you think these devotees attain me? Unless one takes shelter of me, then he cannot cross over the ocean of material existence. So remember, one cannot attain me by performing mundane austerities, however great they may be. By drinking milk, one cannot attain me. For your audacity, I will now destroy everyone. Prepare yourselves to see this here and now. We'll continue this later. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Okay. Hearing the Lord's threat, the Brahmana became frightened and ran frantically, leaving his hiding place so everyone could see him. As all the devotees turned and looked at him in amazement, he thought to himself, what I have seen today is worth any punishment. Nothing can compare to the great mercy that was given to me as a result of hiding in this room. Mahaprabhu, knowing the mind of this frightened Brahmana, felt kindly disposed toward him, and placing his 2 feet on the Brahman's head, he addressed him. Do not simply rely on austerities as your means of perfection. You should know that devotion to Vishnu is the topmost and the only true means of reaching perfection. Seeing the merciful and compassionate nature of the Lord, the Brahmana cried tears of ecstasy. The devotees were all moved by his endearing exchange and were relieved that the Lord was not going to destroy the world. Their happiness reached profound proportions, and they began to roar loudly, Hari, Hari! After this, they fell to the ground like golden sticks, offering their full obeisances. Whoever faithfully listens to these pastimes of pleasantry will undoubtedly meet Mahaprabhu and his intimate associates in the near future. Okay. Although less than qualified devotees sometimes manage their way into Srivasa Thakur's courtyard and observe the Lord's pastimes as illustrated by Srivasa's mother-in-law, by the Brahmana who only took milk, and also by Srivasa's Sudra servant Duki at Sri Chandrasekhar Bhavan, another place where intimate pastimes occurred, only the most confidential associates and servitors of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were allowed entrance. Oh, it says Srivasa Thakur displayed his mercy. It was pointing out how merciful he was. He was trying to give devotees an opportunity to get Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's association. It says he also displayed his mercy to a demon named Gopal Chapal, who placed meat and wine outside Srivasa's door to antagonize the devotees. As a result, Gopal contracted a severe case of leprosy. Mahaprabhu told him that he could only be cured by the forgiveness of Srivasa himself. Naturally, Srivasa forgave him, and in due course, he was not only cured, but allowed to the inner circle of devotees, enjoying the chanting of Srivasa Anga for the rest of his life. Oh, okay, this is the pastime of Srivasa's son. Want to hear that one? The devotees learned much truth from their association at Srivasa Anga, and on one occasion, this educational experience came from the death of Srivasa's son. This pastime is mentioned only briefly in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but is described in more detail than the Chaitanya Bhagavat. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives more details still and has expanded the elements of this Leela and its philosophical implications by composing 13 songs totaling 91 verses. He calls his elaboration on this pastime Shoka Shantana, the dispelling of grief, and we will summarize his work as follows. In the evening twilight, within the privacy of Srivasa Pandit's courtyard, Lord Chaitanya engaged in Hari Kirtan with the most advanced devotees in Navadvip. Being madly intoxicated with ecstatic love, the assembled devotees completely forgot themselves and incessantly began to dance and chant wildly, completely surrounding the Panchatattva. At this time, within the inner chamber of Srivasa's house, one of Srivasa's sons suddenly died without any apparent cause. Due to the shock of losing the boy, Malini and the neighboring women began to cry and lament like mad women. The cacophony of this loud crying upset the kirtan, which was good. The cacophony of this loud crying upset the kirtan, which was good, for the devotees had great love for Srivasa's children. Entering the inner chamber, Srivasa began to pacify the women by giving them spiritual instructions that were as sweet as nectar. He said, "Look here, respected ladies, you all lament uselessly. What kind of unhappiness can possibly exist when one has ecstatic love for Krishna? Whoever has Krishna for his eternal son never has to lament for anything. But if one becomes attached to temporary sons or daughters of this material world, then everything is lost and pain is inevitable. Look, you all have come into this world for the purpose of worshiping Krishna, so now you should all become situated again in the eternal absolute truth. As long as you are in this body, you should cultivate love for Krishna, knowing him to be your real wealth, real friend, and your very life and soul. All the attendants of this body, namely brothers, friends, husbands, and sons, should be accepted as being only temporary relatives. They will all die in due course. Whoever wants to hold on to husbands or sons will in fact not be able to keep them, for all these bodily alliances are impermanent. Even if your son is sitting in your very lap, Srivas continued, you still cannot protect him, for when the consequences of his bad fruit of actions take effect, then his present world is finished, and he will remain in your lap no longer. Being involved in the happiness and distress of temporary material relationships, many other living entities are now being degraded into lower species of life, falling into illusion and far away from Krishna's lotus feet. Therefore, you should immediately give up your useless lamentation and just become absorbed in the bliss of the Lord's holy names. Why are you exclaiming, my son, in great sadness? Krishna has simply taken his own devotee to suit his own happiness. Do you not believe in God? Krishna is causing all things to take place according to his own sweet will. Why we do not see the whole picture, and this is foolishly speculative to think we do. Therefore, giving up all your lamentation, just listen to the ecstatic chanting of Krishna's holy name, which is going on now in the courtyard. From this you will get all the topmost transcendental bliss, and all of your wishes will be fulfilled. Let's see. Hearing the words of Srivasa Pandita, the assembled female Vaishnavas gave up their lamentation for the dead boy. Covering up the body, they again fixed their minds on the transcendental form of the name of Hari. Then, realizing his preaching was successful, Srivasa went out into the courtyard and, filled with joy, resumed dancing with Lord Chaitanya and loudly sang the glories of Krishna. The boy had expired only 1.5 hours after dark, but out in the courtyard no one knew about it due to the loud power of the kirtan. Then for 9 hours there was continuous chanting of the auspicious holy names. Thus the entire night had elapsed in this ecstatic singing. Then the kirtan finally stopped, and Lord Chaitanya said, "Why am I feeling some sadness here? I perceive that something inauspicious has happened in this house today, which has deprived me of bliss." At this point, the devotees related to the Lord the story of Srivasa's son. Hearing the news, Mahaprabhu loudly exclaimed, "Oh no, what has happened? What has happened? Now the core of my heart has been pierced with unbearable pain. Why didn't you inform me of this calamity when it first happened?" Hearing these words of the Lord, Srivasa Pandita began rolling on the ground, crying out, "Please hear me, my Lord. Please hear me. I am unable to tolerate anything that interrupts the ecstatic melodies of your kirtan. Only one of my sons has died, O Lord, and that has not really upset me. Even if all of my sons were to die, I would still get more than enough happiness simply by seeing you. I would certainly die on the spot if I were to interrupt your dancing, O Lord. That is why I did not inform you of this bad news, for I was dreading the calamity of disturbing your ecstasy. My Lord, if you will kindly grant us permission now, then we shall take the boy's body away and perform the proper funeral rites." Hearing this from Srivasa Pandita, the actual father of the boy, Mahaprabhu, broke down and began to weep piteously. The Lord then managed to compose himself, thinking, how can I possibly abandon such loving servitors and go elsewhere by taking sannyas? If I were to do so, my heart would certainly split. Then the Lord ordered the household members to bring the boy's body out into the courtyard, and they immediately complied. Mahaprabhu addressed the boy's dead body. "Please tell me, dear boy, whatever prompted you to leave here so suddenly, thus giving up the association of your loving father?" After the Lord spoke to the boy in this way, to everyone's surprise, the soul miraculously manifested again in the dead body, and the boy began to offer prayers to the Lord. Srivasa's son said, "My dear Lord, you are without doubt the supreme absolute truth, unlimited and without competition. Since you are the source of all energy, you can accomplish anything you please. Life and death belong to you, and you control everything by your multifarious potencies. Neglecting your lotus feet, I have now become completely ruined. As soon as I chose to be independent of your lordship, my mind became interested in Maya's allurements. Thus I have given up my inherent spiritual nature. Falling down due to the dazzling bewilderment of fruit of gain, I have been captured by illusion within this mundane world. Now, as a result, I am being forcibly tossed about on the revolving wheel of fruit of actions and reactions. According to his fate, I have been brought into Srivasa's home to appear as his son by taking birth in the womb of his wife Malini. But again, according to my predestined fate, I must now leave this place. I cannot remain here any longer. Let's see here. Even if I wanted to, your desire is most powerful, dear Lord, whereas my desire is most feeble, for I am simply an insignificant fallen soul. Wherever you send me next, O Lord, I must certainly go to become someone's son or husband or father or daughter. However, I know that all these material relationships do not possess even one speck of eternal truth, for only you are the eternal friend and guardian of all souls. So he's speaking a little bit more, same transcendental knowledge. And then it says, after saying this, the boy fell silent. All the devotees witnessing the incident could not believe their eyes or their ears. Srivasa Pandit's whole family gave up their lamentation and were overwhelmed with great happiness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then began to speak with very sweet words. My dear Srivasa, you are actually my eternal servant. Indeed, I am staying in this world only due to your affection for me. You are never subject to the bondage of Maya Devi, the proprietress of this prison-like material world. All the people in Navadvip are witness to this fact. You have dedicated unto me all your wealth, your followers, your body, your family, household paraphernalia, and thus you become most joyful by being so nicely situated in my eternal service. Nityananda Prabhu and I am helplessly bound to your pure love for us. We know that you enjoy great happiness by considering us to be your very own sons. We are truly your eternal sons, for we see that you are not materially attached to any of your temporary sons, although you clearly love them very much, for they are subject to the material conditions of creation and destruction. Because of your pure devotion, I am eternally indebted to you, and because of your saintly character, you are also quite deserving of my indebtedness. Since Mahaprabhu showed such affection to Srivasa, the devotees present began to dance ecstatically by repeatedly shouting, Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda. Then the four brothers of the dead boy came over and fell down at Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, weeping and wailing with ecstatic love. They began rolling on the ground, overflowing with pure love, while humbly petitioning the Lord as follows. Well, I wish my funerals were like this. Hare Krishna. They said, O Lord of our lives, if calamities like this would happen every day, then that would only increase our deep loving attachment to your lotus feet. This calamity of losing our brother is actually our great fortune, for on this day we are remembering your lordship. If on some other day we are bereft of your remembrance, then that day is actually the real calamity for souls such as we. Lord Chaitanya, who was so affectionate to his own devotees, then took the dead boy and along with all the devotees began to chant the holy names. In a parade of song and dance, they all arrived on the bank of the Ganges, and there they performed the funeral rites using water from that holy river. When Mahaprabhu personally put the boy's body into the river, the Ganges personified picked up the body and held it. Bringing the dead boy out to the water, she touched Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. Still holding the body, she began to tremble in ecstatic love for the Lord. In this way, Srivasa's son was given a glorious burial, and the devotees continued to dance in ecstasy. There is no end to the glories of Srivasa Pandit, for devotees who are totally surrendered to the Lord's mission continue to exist, and where they are, so too is the Panchatattva. Srivasa Thakur ki jai. Anyone want any other pastimes or points? Yes.
Excuse me. Picture that we have, the painting we have of the Panchatattva on the altar. That was like the definitive painting when it came out, and everyone want to have it on their altar, and they think they do. I think it's very widely displayed. But isn't that Gadadhar all the way on the right? And then to Lord, on Lord Chaitanya's extreme left. He's got orange on, he's got saffron. It's got to be Gadadhar, isn't it?
I don't know.
Oh.
I do not know. You'd have to ask, was it Muralidhara painted that, and why those colors were chosen, and so on.
Anyway,
is it a festival dhoti?
I don't know, maybe, but in every deity, all the deities of Panchatattva, I know Hawaii and of course Mayapur. There may be some others. The understanding is Srivasa Chakra is to Lord Chaitanya's far left, and right is to his far left, and of course the understanding. All right, I'll look into it. I'll let you know.
Anything else? So you just see how dear Srivasa Thakur was to Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and all the arrangements he made in Navadvip and so on. So, and Narada Muni. Can I ask you a question? Anyone had any? I have a question. And it could be, when we hear about Srivasa Thakur being Narada Muni, or this devotee being this personality in the spiritual world, and just because I know another reference to these kirtans in Srivasa Sangha, sometimes the devotees would appear as they appear in Krishna Lila to each other. That's pretty ecstatic. But the question I have is, what does that actually mean? In other words, let's take Narada Muni and Srivasa Thakur. Does that mean while Narada Muni is being Srivasa, he's not Narada Muni? Or does it mean these personalities actually have the ability to expand themselves into so many different incarnations, even though they're jivas? What's your understanding?
Krishna Maharaj, can you use the microphone?
Oh, right next to you.
If only I had a microphone.
Gotcha. The whole business is adhokshaja anyway. It's beyond the ken of the mind and senses. The senses can't perceive it, the mind can't grasp it. But my understanding, I don't have a definitive answer. But my understanding is that perhaps they're able to expand themselves, or perhaps this is someone who's absolutely imbued with their mood. I don't know. What is it? One of the Dwadasha, which is it? Uttaran Dutt is Subal or something like. What does that mean? I don't know. But it's cool.
Yes. Good.
That the famous Brahma Haridas. That Haridas is actually Brahma. Well, that doesn't mean. Brahma's got so many things to do. It's just that he's not vacant from Brahmaloka. So that idea of expansion, I think, is correct. And I'll try to find some shastric evidence, but I seem to vaguely remember that could make that. Even the demigods, they were instructed to all take birth. And the family of in Vrindavan before Lord Chaitanya come. So they have a lot to do. Overseeing the water and overseeing the air. So it's an expansion. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So we can spend the rest of the day remembering Srivasa Thakur, the ecstatic kirtans at Srivasa Sangha. Anything else? Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srivasa Thakur. That's right.